been a roller coaster of a 12-week championship with these Renault Clio Cups, but Friday Night Primetime 2023 Season 2 comes to a close as we make our way over the summit point with 3 points the difference at the top of the championship standings. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV for the final time this season. We're ready to rumble with the Renault Clio Cup cars here live on a Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Delighted to have your company once again here on RaceSpotTV. Arjuna Kenki party on hand, not with your regular commentary queue unfortunately, but Lorenzo Bonda joins myself. But don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to racespot.tv/timing. Lorenzo, these Clio Cups, we knew that they were going to be an interesting car to watch in terms of the racing that they put on. And we started at Spa, we've traveled across the world. What a season we've had with these machines.
Absolutely, and it's an enjoyable car to drive. You know, it's a beginner's car, it's a driver's car. We saw a lot of close races, but we go from Alton Park to Summit Point Raceway. A completely different style of approach of racing. Is going to be much closer than Alton Park. Can't wait to see how this race is going to pan out.
The end of this season has brought tracks where you stay close relatively because there are no long straights. We're not talking about pack races like we would have had back at the Red Bull Ring and of course at Spa, but Lime Rock, Alton and Summit Point. Some technique is required at the end of the day to get the most out of the machines. Remember, this is a 12-week championship, but only the best 8 weeks count in the championship. You're allowed 4 weeks to A, decide not to race, B, have a nightmare of a week, as it were. 3 points, the difference between Danny Martin and Adecoba Lopez at the top. We haven't seen much of either from them on Friday Night Primetime, but Lopez joins us to crown out the championship here tonight. Behind, look at the gaggle behind Alex Rogers and then Victor Burgos 3rd through 10th with under 78 points splitting 7 different drivers.
Which is insane to think about how close this is, Arjuna. And also think to notice, there's a little bit of, you could say, Iberian domination. I think the Spaniards kind of took a liking to this car. Of course, they run championships in Spain with this car specifically. So it's something that it's going to be quite interesting to see how the United States track is going to bring us, because you can give like dives all the way from Mid-Ohio on turn number 1.
I want to try and focus on the championship at the front. We'll try and keep you abreast of everything going on slightly further behind as well, because that is going to be quite intriguing. In terms of Adecoba Lopez, of course, with no Danny Martin in the field today, we won't really know who wins the championship until Monday rolls around and a brand new iRacing build week starts. Week 13, so much excitement from everybody as they get to see what new things iRacing has to showcase and to spoil us with for another 12-week official competition season. Qualifying underway, 3 minutes left on the board right now, and it's no surprise the number 1 machine, Adecoba Lopez, sits on top.
Yeah, with quite a comfortable gap to Alexis Moisan, so it's going to be quite interesting how does that turn 1, lap 1 is going to figure out, and if Ade is going to be able to clear himself quite a lot from the other drivers as we take a look at his car going through the hairpin sections.
Now you can see that this is one of the cars that does not yet have the hand shift animation model, which is what I'm going to call it, which is coming to iRacing in this upcoming build, already showcased on the LMP3 machine, but in the case of Lopez, he has already finished his 2 qualifying attempts. The 11 car slots his way up into the top 5, but a full almost second off of the pace of the pole position time. That is effectively qualifying done and dusted though, because with 2 minutes left to run in the session, it's only Alejandro Reyes who has not completed 2 lap times. He had an issue on the second of the laps and so currently finds himself waiting on pit lane and forces us, Lorenzo, to sit around for the next 120 odd seconds. It's not just a new car in the form of the LMP3 that I mentioned. iRacing also recently announced a brand new partnership with the FIA and the iRacing Formula 4, hopefully soon to be renamed the official Formula 4 machine.
Yeah, finally, when it came, it's the IR04. Now it's going to be eventually the Formula 4. I'm not going to go into details on this specific stuff, but it's good to see that they made the partnership with the FIA. Good to see building new bridges, and can't wait to see when the new championship is going to drop and all drivers are going to take the course and fight with these open wheel cars.
Let's not forget that next season means another opportunity for the audience to have their say as to what we showcase here on RaceSpotTV. What would you be excited about in terms of new series, new options for us to be covering in 2023 Season 3?
You know, I've been trying to gear myself maybe kind of like to an IMSA pilot challenge or something like that. You know, it's a very interesting series, and I think they broke off. Now it's GT4s and TCRs. I've been out of the loop quite a bit, but back when we had the MPC was quite an interesting one. I don't know if they're gonna mix the LMP3s with the GT4s, kind of like they do at IMSA, or they want to do at IMSA. So if they do that, it's gonna be a very compelling series for us to watch.
I agree. LMP3, GT4 might be fun. I'm wondering if we might cover the Ringmeister series, though. You know my opinions on the Nordschleife, and it's a series where you race on nothing but the Nordschleife. It's every week a new car, and you head back over to the Green Hell. I think that's going to have its own little fan contingent, I'm sure, in a little bit of a niche in the iRacing community. Qualifying, though, here in these Clio Cups draws to a close for the final time this season. It's Ade Koba-Lopez that runs on top. It's go fast time in the books. We're ready to go racing, though, and that means we'll get them stacked up for a standing start for what's going to be a 15-minute, probably a 12-lap affair. Here's a look at how they'll line up. It's Ade Koba-Lopez, second in points, first on track with a 1:20.153, almost half a second clear of the Canadian Alex Mozan. And then Alejandro Reyes and Matthias Pentela make up row number 2 in some quite distinctive paint schemes. And then, of course, Demis Tigler and then Plino Pereira completing the front 6 machines. Behind them, it's Kevin Anfield, Abel Garcia, Torsten Bell, and then Reed Shannabrook completing the top 10. Hubert Marshall and then Luis Andrade just behind them to round out the 12 cars that will get ready to do battle and already getting lined up and ready to rumble on that start formation. Short time before we go racing, Lorenzo. Quick expectations for what should be an interesting fight.
It should be an interesting fight. I'm really, like I said before, looking towards turn number 1, where we know historically you can go for those hero to zero dives, and how much of a breakaway Ade is going to try to take himself an advantage of on lap 1.
I think that is going to be the question. If Ade is going to be able to break away, it's going to be difficult for those behind to realistically be able to stick in his tire tracks. Just waiting, by the way, on Alejandro Reyes, who is keeping us waiting just a little bit. But just like that, drivers focus their attention towards the starting lights. Engines roar. We're ready to rumble here in Summit Point. Good start from Koba-Lopez, who's going to lead them on that funnel in towards the opening braking zone. A sharp right-hand hairpin. It's basically status quo for the time being. Who is going to be brave with cold tires and, more importantly, brakes still trying to get their way up to the optimal bite point? Sens from behind, no real Sens at the front. Lopez from Moisan from Reyes, the top 3 in towards the middle sector.
Yeah, you can even see Reyes trying to find himself a gap on the outside for a maneuver in turn number 1, but kind of was blocked off quickly by Moisan. So everything bar than that, there haven't been too much moves. I think only Andrade actually made a move on the start over here just because of the confusion at the back. Might
have been Torsten Bell, who also just got a poor start because he's lost 3 positions as we head in towards this tight middle sector that winds its way back and forth. First to the left, then to the right. 6, 7, 8, 9 lead you into a short blast into the final corner. Not really a passing opportunity initially unless you really want to push the tempo. You are wondering, how much were we going to see the breakaway at the front? Well, heading into that final corner, first time of asking. 12 estimated laps in this 15-minute race or so. It's Ade Koba-Lopez, 8/10 clear through the final corner.
And you can see how much this is like a braking sort of a track. You know, need to get the braking right on turn number 1 and then on turn number 4 for you to carry the most speed as possible. And Ade is probably one of the masters around this car to dominate such things. But now the fun begins, one funnel behind the other. Well, we're probably going to be seeing some moves, maybe not in this lap, but maybe on the next lap when the dive bombs might start.
Yeah, I do wonder when we will see some of those dive bombs as Raiders gets a bit of a toe into the grass, and that's going to send chaos off. I'm not sure who else has got tangled up in that one as they filter their way through. You could just hear the tires. The 11's got around. Pereira got turfed off into the wall as well. Major, major drama on lap number 2.
I wonder what happened between Raiders. I think it looked like to be titular as well, but I think there was Raiders and Moisan that might have got into one another and got spun around.
So here we go, and so
the grass.
Raiders gets pinched back into the path of the 11, then Pereira trying to slink back and forth. Well, you see the aftermath. Let's see if we can jump on board and get a better point of view from the 7.
Wow. Nice slow Clio right there. I was gonna give him a quick shout afterwards after this race is done if he actually survived that, but unfortunately to see the Brazilian Bravo Racing just go off like that.
So not the only incident, by the way, because end of the first lap, Reed Shannabrook gets a bit of an elbow off into the gravel, but holds on to it with these front-wheel drive machines, and now takes advantage of the couple of drivers that have had to head back down to pit lane and will grab a couple of positions. Meanwhile, as Marshall finds his way out of the gravel, Torsten Bell slides on through. So much carnage going on in these early stages. Not really seeing too much passing. It's very difficult to find those opportunities.
Yeah, which is odd for me. Normally when I used to broadcast massive leagues in Brazil with this car, you would see overtakes night and day around this track. And with the Clio, looks like because of the, might be also because of the aerodynamic changes that were done, I think, this season, Arjuna, that might not bring themselves together as much as probably would have in a few seasons past. But now it makes it take a little bit more difficult if you are in such a large gap as we see Abel Garcia trying to do something with Kevin Enfield on the final board.
There's a couple of cars that are made up of 3 spots apiece, but now find some separation from those in front. You can see Adecoba Lopez is trying to break the draft to Moisan behind. 1.4 that margin at the end of lap number 3. And so onto the brakes once again. Not totally clear, but very much not feeling the pressure from behind. Is your race leader. Of course, we've talked about LMP3 being something that iRacing has already showcased as being an addition for the next season. Circuit Aragon teased as well, but I know many are hoping that there's a certain other prototype that will make its way to iRacing in a week's time.
Cadillac, you mean? Sorry, what? I'm just looking for snipers over here to see if I'm not gonna get shot down or something like that. No, I'm clear. But yeah, I really want to see that. So is Steam if it comes GTP prototypes that I've heard the rumors.
We heard the engines. I think what we should probably say more specifically. At least some people think they heard the engine. Let us know what you think about what iRacing threw on social media a few weeks ago. Just the sound of an engine reverberating through the streets of the Motor City. Speaking of the Motor City, as we check back in with this 3-way fight for 4th, there's some racing going on the streets of Detroit this weekend at a circuit layout that is not as good as Belle Isle. There, I said
God, I was holding myself. Did you like that layout?
This is pretty bad.
Yeah, when I saw the video that I think Ray Hall Letterman did for their Twitter, I was looking at it and it was like, okay, big straight, okay, this is blend. The 90-degree turns. Somewhere in Germany, I think Hermann Tilke must be proud.
It's one of the tracks of all time. It's probably the nicest thing that I can say about that, as Abel Garcia, Luis Andrade both kick up a bit of gravel. It's allowed the gap for 5th to really shrink on up, though, and now Garcia going to be pinched down low. Andrade just trying to find a way through, but in trying to find the gap and putting the pressure onto Garcia, all it really has done is drawn Kevin Anfield slightly away from them. Interesting to see how different drivers elect to use some of the curbs differently around this relatively short facility.
Yeah, because I think the car just operates a little bit differently than the other cars. As probably Andrade is going to go for the move on the inside here, Arjuna.
Final corner is not necessarily the wisest place to do it because Garcia sweeps the momentum through, and now lights flash yes from Andrade, but he's going to have to try and claw his way back to be alongside him towards turn number 1.
Yeah, the Brazilian, in my opinion, I know Luis from driving many times with him. Very safe driver. He's not going to commit for moves like that. He's a specialist on front-wheel drive cars, so this fits right his bill. And one of the Brazilian championship leaders that drives around this car. So he knows to work patiently for overtakes. He's not going to go for something that is aggressive, keep himself out and the other driver out. Even plus, he only just gained 10 positions, Arjuna, in this race alone.
See how those numbers look at the end. Halfway through, by the way, the 15-minute sprint. Andrade once again going to be trying to set up this opportunity. He's a little bit more overlapping as they wind their way in through turn 5, but have to back out of it once again. I think the reality is he's going to have to recognize what happened a lap ago, where he was too optimistic, I would say, in towards that final corner. Try and slingshot out of there and get the move done into 1.
I would say just work the patience. I think that was a lot better line now from Abel Garcia coming into the final corner. On the previous one, he took a little bit of a wider line. They might have gotten a little bit of an understeer, but look at Andrade's line right now. Basically slingshotting him on the main straight line for an overtake on turn number 1.
And this is kind of what I was thinking would happen a lap ago, but Andrade gets the memo, and the second time of asking down the inside in towards turn number 1. Garcia will try initially to fight it under braking, but just more confidence from the 3, who slides his way up inside of the top 5, and now has a full 2-second deficit to close to Kevin Anfield in that blue and black Renault Clio that's scampering off up into turn number 3, just at the front of your shot. And we did say that we expected potentially Adecobo Lopez to break away for first. Matthias Pentel has done a great job to hold Alexis Moisan honest in this fight for second.
Yeah, but it was a good breakaway from Ade, but I didn't believe that Pentel was going to get that close from Moisan and still cook him with less than 6 minutes to go. This is some good race between both drivers, and let's see what the Finn has in store. As now we can hear the roar of the car and see the intricacies of how you handle front-wheel drive cars into the final corner.
Slides his way on through in the pink and black machine, and is he going to be able to get that same sort of slingshot into 1 as we saw out of Luis Andrade a lap ago? Don't necessarily think that he's got as much of an overspeed. You remember, fixed setup competition here. Every driver has the same balance of car to deal with. 5 minutes left means probably 4 laps to go next time by. Time winding down for Pentela to try and get this opportunity.
Yeah, but and to be very honest, I think Pentela is going to be very patient. I don't know if he's going to be able to take that opportunity over here on the next set of corners, because he's too far back, and he has to be a massive send if you really want to take the position out of Moisan. So for now, the patience is the name of the game for him right now. And I was taking a quick look, Andrade is actually closing the gap a little bit to Kevin Anfield on the previous lap.
It's down to about a second, so
yeah.
See how the fight for 4th maybe closes on up of its own accord. Reed Shannonbrook had another issue, by the way. He's dropped behind Hubert Marchal for 8th position. But in towards the final corner once again, it's even closer for the RD Simsport car. Pentela right up the bumper of 2nd spot. And as he tries to get a good run off the corner, Abel Garcia slingshots his way back onto track.
I'm wondering if he clipped the grass on the outside and just kind of like swerved into the track and had to basically zigzag to get under control. As now, Pentela, here he goes.
Down the inside into turn number 1. He's going to force Moisan to give him that extra room, and almost being squeezed off into the gravel. Moisan tries to V it back into line, but it is Pentela that grabs second now with less than 4 minutes to run.
Yeah, really good run from Pientila. Now the thing is, you were the hunter, now it becomes the hunter. I think there's a little bit of a loft tap on the back of Pientila here at June, and nearly driven off-road, but Moisen, I think, knew about that and let the Finnish driver go off for a little bit.
All's fair in love and war, I guess.
Yep.
They survive. Here's the look at what happened to Garcia. Whoa, oh boy. Now, we are going to have a look on board there, because there is no way that there was not some sort of contact, surely. Goodness me.
Goodness me. I'll give this a 10.
Does that get an iRacing top 10 or not top 10 recommendation?
Top 10 recommendation for save, not top 10 for because you went off the track.
Fair, okay. So that means if we equalize the scoring, 10 plus minus 10 equals 0. It's a 0 out of 0. Because again, if it's on a scale of, if 10 out of 10 is, you know, goes to iRacing top 10, minus 10 out of minus 10 is, you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, but it depends. If, like, now I'm curious. If you are 1 in the top 10, but you are if you are 1 on the negative, on the not top 10, doesn't mean it is 1 minus 1 or...
No, I think it is. Being number 1 on the top 10 means you have been scored 10 out of 10. Being scored number 1 on the not top 10 means you have been scored minus 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Which means that it's minus 1 plus 1, which equals 0.
All right, so you go for the min-max. Okay,
Exactly.
Makes sense, the mathematics.
I don't know if it necessarily does, but we'll claim that it does. Reed Shannonbrook, for a moment, I disappeared from my timing screen. Hopefully that's not a more worrying issue. You know what is a worrying issue? Is if you're Kevin Anfield, the fact that you've got a Renault Clio now very, very large in your rear view mirror, and it's the hungry Luis Andrade.
Yeah, the driver from Pernambuco is actually hungry for positions. Like I said, started P last, basically navigated himself through the chaos that we saw around lap number 3 and 4, and climbed himself bit by bit further into the top 5, which is good to see. You know, the patience paid off for the Brazilian driver. He
will get 2 laps, I think, unless Koba Lopez wants to slow his speed at the very front of the field. I think he crossed the line with 1:24 left to run into turn 1. Anfield will hold the position, at least for the time being. Oh, but there's contact on the exit.
Oh, no.
Andrade gets on through. Don't think that was necessarily his fault, but Anfield drops to 5th.
Yeah, unfortunate. Really want to. I was actually looking at the timing screen over here, so I missed this by a short bit. It looks like there is some slight failure on the pedals or something like that, so not fully the fault of Andrade, maybe?
He just doesn't get through the corner as well as I think he needed to, so not sure what the issue was, but racing deal is probably what I would say. Here is your race leader, though, who is heading in towards the final corner, and with the seconds clicking off, I am not sure. Is it one more lap? Are we about to see the checkered flag? Marshall and Shannonbrook still trying to figure things out with now Marshall losing a bunch of time, Shannonbrook, excuse me, losing a bunch of time it would appear. But that officially is the white flag. One more lap to go.
Yeah, you can see Barney kind of like waving the yellow flag, the white flag for the final lap. I'm going crazy. For the final time in this season for the Clio Cup, which has been a really good season so far. We still have some good battles up on our screen to still to break down.
This is Anfield and then Garcia, who now find each other, but side by side down the back main straightaway. This is Marshall and Shannonbrook, who have been going back and forth a bit hammer and tongs. It's the 9 of Shannonbrook on the inside. And we'll try and do a half fade to Marshall, but the undercut off the corner in what I believe is an undercut racing Renault Clio Cup car. Not going to get the move done. I'm glad I can recognize the livery.
No, that was really good, and you can see him nearly trying again on the second corner, or turn number 3. Just giving a little bit, but kept it safe nevertheless, both drivers. And
Reed Shannonbrook decided that he was going to cut the course and not lose any time as a result of it. You know who has not lost any time today? Well, Someone that will be hoping that in a few days' time he has crowned himself champion of the iRacing Clio Cup Fix Series. Ade Copa Lopez entered today 3 points off of the championship lead, and with a race victory on RaceSpotTV on Friday night primetime, he will seal off another great performance in another wild machine. Copa Lopez, a fixture of RaceSpot's journey across of the iRacing official series. Pentola second, Moisan grabs third, Andrade and then Anfield through the rest of the top 5, while Garcia settles for 6th, just 3/10 off at the very end. Marshall ends up behind Shannabrook. A great way, Lorenzo, to close out what's been a fun season with a fun car.
Yeah, really fun season to watch with this car. A car that is, like I said before, a driver's car. You need to have proper control of this car. It demands time and patience, but once you get the hang of the car, it's really good to drive, and obviously it's going to be a staple mark here on iRacing to stay, and can't wait to see more seasons. Maybe take over the car someday to give it a few laps.
Maybe we have it as part of our Bragging Rights 3 later on this year. We'll have to wait and see. As Ade Copa Lopez celebrates in victory lane, here's a look at the results. 4.5 seconds the margin between Lopez and Pentolo, 1 and 2. Moisan just a full second further back then to round out the podium spots. Andrade climbs his way up to 4th, 8 positions gained for him, while Anfield, Garcia, Bell, Shannabrook, Marshall and Pereira the rest of your top 10. Behind them, 2 drivers not scored on the leading lap. One gets to the end, one does not. 6 positions lost for the 11, 9 positions lost for the number 5, and fastest lap just to add to the perfect race meeting for Ade Copa Lopez on lap number 3, fastest of them all. And so, as the sun begins to set on 2023 Season 2, on this iRacing Clio Cup Fix Series, we take one final look at that schedule to remind ourselves, Lorenzo, of what an interesting journey that we've been on this season. And to remind everyone that's watching, in a week or two's time, head on over to RaceSpot.wtf/Discord to make sure that their voices are heard as to what gets broadcasted for Primetime 2023 Season 3.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw kind of like every track and every style of track available in the calendar, which was good to see with this car, making it kind of like maiden debut, maiden season over here on RaceSpotTV. And if it gets voted again, I don't know if it's going to get voted by the community, but nevertheless, a really interesting car to break off in this first season.
I'll give you one choice, Lorenzo. You can pick only one series that we can broadcast next year. What's going to the forefront of your mind?
You said Ringmeister. I got my interest in that as well. If you say that, I'll go with you.
You're stealing my choice, though.
All right, then I'm gonna say IMSA.
Which IMSA, though? Because next year we have the addition of some LMP3 cars.
All right, then I'll stick with the LMP3 and GT4 if they ever comes to be. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you know what you're asking for your Christmas present later this year when it comes from iRacing. You want some dentistry, but with primetime in the books, don't forget that, yes, the iRacing season is coming to a close. A new iRacing season just on the horizon. For more information on everything iRacing.com, and when new memberships are 40% off, head over there now. Every day is race day. Find your way onto your virtual career to get your very first checkered flag. Primetime returns next season with the choice up to you. RaceSpot.wtf/Discord. That's where your voices will be heard as to what gets covered next season. For the entire team behind the scenes, for Iku Maricalo, who's been on production duties for so much of this season, for the likes of Joey Tebben, Will Chadwick, Zach Sweeney, and a handful more alongside Lorenzo Bonder and myself, Arjuna Kankipati. Thank you so much for your company. We'll see you next time on RaceSpotTV. For now, so long and goodbye.